Hello and welcome to my Pre-Algebra review series. This video covers Chapter 3, Section 7, titled Using the Metric System. By the end of this video, you will have reviewed the processes for identifying appropriate metric measures, to include choosing appropriate units of measure and then estimating with the metric units. Finally, you will be converting between metric units, that is, from one metric unit to another metric unit. Please leave a like if you find this video to be helpful. Give your classmates a heads up too. It will more than likely help them, and it certainly will help this channel to be seen by more students. If you have any questions at all regarding the topics of this video, please leave a comment in the comment section below. I read them and do my best to address each as time permits. Please subscribe to the channel and ring the bell icon to be notified every time I release a new video. Thank you. So let's get into it. Okay, objective 1, identifying appropriate metric measures. Knowing the approximate size of each metric unit of measure will allow you to choose the appropriate unit. So here's the key concept that you should be aware of, and let's think about these and try to memorize them as we go through them. Length. What are the length units in the metric system? 1 millimeter. As it says here, millimeter, about the thickness of a dime. A centimeter is about the width of a thumbnail. A meter is about the distance from the doorknob to the floor. A kilometer is a little more than half a mile. Okay, that's length. Now for capacity, that's the ability to hold something, right? A milliliter, they measure in liters now, is about 5 drops of water. A milliliter, 5 drops. A liter is a little more than a quart. Okay? And for mass, that's like equivalent in our thinking to like weight. But milligrams, 1,000th, milli means a thousandth, 1,000th of a gram is about a speck of sawdust. A gram is about the mass of a paper clip, is 1 gram. A kilogram is one half the measure of your math book. So you take the weight of your math book and it's about half that. That's what they're calling a kilogram. Okay, a kilogram is actually 2.2 pounds. Okay, so there we have it. Okay, so example 1, we're going to talk about choosing an appropriate metric unit. Choose an appropriate metric unit. Explain your choice. So the height of a classroom chalkboard. Now we're talking about now we're talking about meters, right? So is it a millimeter, a centimeter, a meter, a kilometer? Well, the height of a classroom chalkboard is about 3 feet off the ground, about the height of a doorknob off the ground. Okay, so we would say here that probably the best unit of measure to measure the height of a chalkboard from the floor would be a meter. Oops, up too high. A meter. And I would say that it's because it's approximately equal to 3 feet, and that a meter is, or about the height of a doorknob off the floor. So that's pretty much what we would do. The y is just that. It's about 1 doorknob above floor. And that's what a meter is. Okay, how about the mass of a backpack filled with books? Well, we're going to measure it. We already know that we're going to measure a book. We talked about that in kilograms. So, because a kilogram is 2.2 pounds. They haven't taught us this in our lessons here, but that's about what it is. And it's about half the weight of a book, it said. So if you have a backpack full of books, you maybe have 3 books. Well, that's going to be the equivalent of 6 kilograms, possibly. So we're going to say a kilogram. That's kilo, K-I-L-O-G-R-A-M, kilogram. Okay, and why is because a book is a half a kilogram. Oh, it wouldn't be 6. It's a half a kilogram per book. Is that what it said? It said that's I think what it was saying. Um, we have 3 books, so it's going to be measured in kilograms. I'll write down books measured in kilograms. Okay, so capacity of a bird bath. Well, this is a capacity now. It's like going to hold something. And well, how big would a bird bath? Are we going to be measuring the water in a bird bath in like the equivalent of drops of water, or like a little cup of water? Or we probably want something more like at least the size of like a pop bottle or something, right? A liter. A liter is a little more than a quart. So if we measure it in quarts, you could probably put like 13 quarts of water in a bird bath, maybe something like that, a couple gallons. So I'm going to say we're going to do it in liters. Liters. Okay. And because a liter, 1 liter, is about 1 quart. Okay. And a bird bath would hold hold about 10, maybe 10 quarts. Okay, we'll go with that. Okay, example 1, check your understanding. You can go ahead and try these on your own. Choose the appropriate metric measure and explain your choice. I'll wait. Okay, now I'm hoping everyone's back with me here. So, A, the length of a broom. How long is a broom? A broom is it maybe 1.5 times the height of a doorknob? Or what? It's going to be, first of all, it's going to be measured in meters. Okay, I'm guessing because it's maybe about 5 feet, and the doorknob's about 3 feet above the floor, so about 1.5 meters maybe would make sense. Okay, because of 1 meter is about 3 feet. And a broom is about 5 feet. How about the mass of an energy bar? Well, we would measure that mass, it's the weight now, and we probably measure it in grams because it's not going to be measured in kilograms. So I'm going to say grams because it wouldn't be measured in kilograms because a kilogram is about half the weight of your book. So half the weight of a book is 2-3 pounds, somewhere in that range. And so the next thing below a kilogram is a gram. So and a gram then is probably more likely to fit the category here. So, okay, mass of a horse. Well, a horse is going to weigh in the many pounds, and we have kilograms, which are each kilogram is about it's exactly 2.2 pounds. When we say so, if you divide a horse's weight, say if it's 1,000 pounds, it'd be about 500 kilograms, maybe, or something. We'd have to do the exact math on it. I don't know how heavy a horse is, but so I'm going to say it's in kilogram. They say kg, but KILO G-R-A-M, kilogram. And I say because that's about the equivalent of 2.5 pounds. So, okay. And then the capacity of a car's gas tank. Well, I'm going to say liters. Okay. And the reason I say liters is it's about little more than 3 liters to a gallon. We measure our gas tanks in gallons. In Europe, they measure gas in liters. So I would think a liter would be appropriate at this point. And like I said, it's a little more than a quart. So you can't measure it in like 1,000 liters, or, that'd be like way out of range. So I would say that liters best fits because it's about equal to a quart, 1 quart. And there's 4 quarts in a gallon. And a gas tank could have, say, 20 gallons, so it would be like 80 quarts. So that makes sense to me. Okay. Okay, example 2, estimating with metric units. Choose a reasonable unit of measure. Reasonable unit of measure. We can measure any one of these in any one of these other side measurements if we want units, but the numbers would get so proportionally incorrect that it wouldn't make sense. You wouldn't be able to understand it very well. So we're going to go ahead and try to pick an appropriate measure. So if you had the capacity of a juice box, is it 200 milliliters or 200 liters? Well, how much is in a milliliter? I think it said that a milliliter was 5 drops of water. Okay, so if we were going to put 5 times 200, 1,000 drops. It seems like 1,000 drops, 200 milliliters of 1,000 drops of water. It might fit into that range. We don't know for exactly, but it's a real good guess, and we're approximating a reasonable answer. But 200 liters, a liter is like a quart. So you're not going to measure a juice box in liters or 200 liters. You wouldn't say 200 liters, would you? This juice box is more like 200 milliliters, okay? 200 milliliters. How about the length of a new pencil? 15 centimeters or 15 meters? Well, a meter we know is about the height of a doorknob off the floor. So 15 of them would be taller than your house. So I'm thinking 15 centimeters, which a centimeter, they say it's about the size of the width of your fingernail. Well, 15 fingernails could be the length of a new pencil. Might make sense. So we're going to go with 15 centimeters, cm. Okay? And the mass of a small tube of toothpaste, is it 100 grams or 100 kilograms? Well, we learned earlier that a gram is about the weight or the mass of a paper clip. So could this small tube of toothpaste be the weight of 100 paper clips? I'm going to go with 100 paper clips. And the reason why is 100 kilograms. A kilogram is half the weight of a book, a textbook. And so do we measure toothpaste in weights that would be like 50 textbooks worth of weight? No, we measured it in grams. So 100 grams would be the answer here. Example 2, check your understanding. Okay, you can do this one. Choose a reasonable estimate. Explain your choice. So when you come back, we'll look at it. Okay, now that you're back, A, distance between 2 cities. Is it 50 millimeters or 50 kilometers? Well, a millimeter we learned earlier, up in slide 2, I think it was, that a millimeter is about the thickness of a dime. 50 thicknesses of a dime is about a roll of dimes. That's about 3 inches or whatever it is. 50 kilometers, though, a kilometer is a little bit more than a half a mile. So something that's 50 kilometers would be like 25 miles. I'm going with 50 kilometers because it's more equivalent to 50 kilometers would be like 25 miles. That's probably good. Where a roll of dimes would not be the correct measure. We would not be measuring the distance between cities and come up with 50 millimeters. Okay, so how about the amount of liquid in that an eyedropper will hold? Well, we were told earlier that a milliliter is equal to about 5 drops. 5 drops of water. That's a milliliter. Okay, so 10 milliliters would be like equivalent to 50 drops. In an eyedropper, if you could squeeze up an eyedropper full of liquid and pop out 50 little drops, that'd probably be all right. Because 10 liters wouldn't, because a liter is a little bit larger than a quart. So we're going to go with 10 milliliters. Milliliters. Okay, objective 2A, so there must be another slide to go along with objective 2. Converting metric units. So the metric system uses a decimal system to relate different units to each other. Look at the metric units chart below. The units highlighted in yellow are the units most often used. So some get used way more often than others, of course. From left to right, each unit is 10 times larger. From left to right, 10 times the size of the unit before it. So everything's in a base of 10. It says that right here. It's in a decimal. Where's my pencil? It says it's in a decimal-based system right here. Decimal system. Everything is on 10. So it's whatever one unit is, the next one to the right of it is 10 times larger. So let's start with length. The smallest length we generally use, and it is marked as a highlight, is millimeters. You'll see millimeters quite often. That's mm. Millimeters. And we know a millimeter is about the thickness of a dime. We talked about that. Okay, so if you go to the right, just one, we go to centi. Milli, by the way, milli, right here, M-I-L-L-I, milli stands for 1,000th. Mil is 1,000th. Okay, so when a 1,000th of a meter, a millimeter is 1,000th. You take a meter and divide it into 1,000 pieces, and that's the thickness. That's what a millimeter is. So now we're going to go to a centimeter to the right. A centimeter is 10 times larger than a millimeter. A centimeter, they say, is about the thickness of the width of your fingernail. Well, a centimeter is 10 times larger than a millimeter. Centi, and the word centi, stands for 100th. So milli is 1,000th. Centi is 100th. The next one up is deci. D-E-C-I, deci. Deci, it actually has decimal almost in it. It's 1/10. A decimeter, right here, decimeter, dm, a dm is 10 times larger than a centimeter. So a decimeter would be, instead of 1 fingernail width, it would be 10 fingernails widths. Okay? Then the final unit, the original unit itself, is a meter. So a decimeter is 10 times smaller than a meter, or you could say a meter is 10 times larger than a decimeter. Just like it's 1,000 times larger than a millimeter, and 100 times larger than a centimeter. A meter, about the height of a doorknob off the floor. Very close to 3 feet. Then we go to deca, D-E-K-A, deca. Deca means 10. Okay, it's 10. So a meter, if you take it and multiply it by 10, you get a decameter. So it would be about 30 feet. A decameter is about 30, 31, 32 feet, somewhere in that range. I'd have to give you the exact conversion. Okay. And there's written out as a DAM, decameter, D-A-M, decameter, 10 times larger than a meter. Next is a hecto. Hecto stands for 100. Deca stands for 10. as opposed to deci stood for 1/10. Centi, 1/100th. A hecto is 100 times larger. So a hectometer is equivalent to 100 meters, or about 310 feet or whatever. I'd have to give you the numbers. I don't have them. And then a kilo is 1,000. Kilo stands for 1,000. You'll hear K. They talk about K clicks. You even hear slang like, oh, clicks, meaning K for kilometers. K. Kilos. Anyways, a kilo is 1,000 times longer than a meter. Okay, which ends up being a little bit more than a half a mile. So now we go to capacity, and without all that labor in terms of talking about deci and deca and deca and all those, a milliliter is a small amount of liquid equivalent to about 5 drops of water. 1 milliliter. A centiliter is 10 times larger than that. So it's the equivalent to 50 drops of water. 10 times larger than a milliliter is a centiliter. A deciliter is 10 times larger than a centiliter, and a deciliter is 100 times larger than a milliliter, called DL, as opposed to CL. For CL is a deciliter, ML is for the milliliter, and a deciliter is DL. And 10 times larger than a deciliter is a liter. It's a very appropriate unit. We use milliliters and liters quite often. 10 times larger than a liter, and that's about the size of a quart, by the way, a little larger than a quart. A decaliter is 10 liters, 10 quarts, maybe a little bit more than 2.5 gallons, maybe 2 3/4 gallons, maybe 3 gallons. Now we get to hectoliter is 100 times a liter, 100 times larger than a liter, and a kiloliter is 1,000 times larger than a liter. For mass, we have a milligram, 1,000th of a gram, and we found out that a milligram, an mg, you see mg is a lot in medicine, on your bottles of medicine, they sell medicines are measured in milligrams, quite a bit. A milligram is about the speck of a dust, the weight of a speck of sawdust, I think they said. A centigram is 10 times larger than a milligram, and that's a cg. Mg, milligram, cg, centigram. Decigram is a dg, that's 10 times larger than a centigram, and 100 times larger than a milligram. And then a gram is 10 times larger than a decigram. It's 1,000 times larger than a milligram. If you took 1,000 specks of sawdust, that would be a gram. A deca is 10 grams, DAG. A hectogram is 100 times a gram, an HG. We don't see heca and deca, hecto and deca very often. Those don't show up much. And then there's a kilogram. Very often we see kilograms, and it's 1,000 times a gram. And it's exactly 2.2 pounds, a kilogram. So that's the unit. So you get a good idea of the place and order. And if you notice, everything is 10 times larger. A centimeter is 10 times bigger than a milliliter. A meter is 1,000 times larger than a milliliter. Okay? You can convert from one unit to another by multiplying or dividing by 10, 100, 1,000, and so on. Okay, objective 2B. This is the second slide. Converting metric units. To convert from one unit to another in the metric system, find the relationship between the two units. So remember, multiply if you are going from a larger to a smaller unit of measure, since there would be more of the smaller units. Right? So, and like if you were a meter and you wanted to go to a millimeter, there's a difference of 1,000. So if you had 1 meter, you'd multiply that by 1,000 and you'd know how many millimeters you had. Okay? Divide if you're going from a smaller unit to a larger unit. So if you had a 10,000 millimeters, and you were going to meters, you'd divide by 1,000 and you'd end up with 10,000 divided by 1,000 is 10 meters. So that's how you do that math. Okay, example 3, converting between metric units. Okay, mental math. They want us to do this in our heads. Okay, complete each statement. Show your thinking. We're going to do it in our heads, but show our thinking. So problem A says we're starting off with I'm going to write it out, 4.35 liters. Okay, and what are the order of the units for liters? Let's write that down. We're going to show our thinking, right? So my thinking says I'm going to start with liters way over here, and then I'm going to go to DL, and then I'm going to go to CL, and then I'm going to go to ML. So that's liters, deciliters, centiliters, milliliters, because they want us to go to milliliters right here. They want milliliters, and we're leaving liters. So as you go from liters to the left, you count the places, 1, 2, 3, and that's each one is 10 times. A liter is 10 times larger than a deciliter. A deciliter is 10 times larger than a centiliter. And a centiliter is 10 times larger than a milliliter. So we're going to multiply these three together and we're going to get 1,000. 10 times 10 times 10 equals 1,000. Or we can do just what we did here. We can move the decimal place, right? So if you have 4.35 liters and you have to multiply, because milliliters are way smaller than liters. So if you take 4.35 liters, the number is going to be way huge, because it has a many, or for each liter you have 1,000 milliliters. So you're going to multiply times 1,000. That's where we got the 1,000 right over here on this side. So 4.35 liters to milliliters, we're going to move it. I'm just going to go ahead. You could multiply it and say that it's 4,350 milliliters. Or we could do this, 4.35, and I'm going to start. Here's where the decimal point is. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. So it means I have to add a 0 right here, and now we're at 4,350 milliliters. So it's 4,350. Okay, now let's do the next one. Be the same, basically the same way. 914 centimeters, okay, is equal to how many meters? Well, that equals how many meters? Well, I could do one thing for sure. I could take, and I'm going to write just to show you. I can write 914 right here, and my decimal point was here, and I'm going to move it 2 places to the left. Okay, so that means 914 centimeters is equivalent to 9.14 meters. You can also divide it by, you could say 914 is divided by 100 is equal to 9.14. And now this is 9.14 meters, and we came from centimeters, okay? And 100, you can look at it this way. 100 means centi, right? C-E-N-T-I is equal to 100. Oops, 100. Well, since we're dividing by 100, we're dividing by a centi, right? A centi is equal to 100. Here's a centi right here. Right here, this 100 is a centi. if you want to think about it. Well, then if we do that, we have a centi. I'm going to put a C right here over a centimeter. These two cross out, and you're left with a meter. Just a little game playing here. Anyways, just something to think about. 9.14 meters. Okay? Example 3, check your understanding. Directions, complete each statement. Okay? You go ahead and do it. It's your job, your turn. When you come back, we'll do them together. Okay, I'm assuming you've done that, and now we're going to move forward. So let's start with 35. A says 35 milliliters equals how many liters? So I'm going to write down 35 milliliters. 35 milliliters. Okay? And we're going to liters. Is equal to how many liters? And I'm not going to write L out here because I don't know how much space I need. How many liters? Well, if we look at this, we're going from smaller to larger units. Okay, so we're going to go from milliliters, ml, to centiliters, cl, to deciliters, dl, and then liters. And we're going from the small 3 times to the right, which is 1,000. 10 times 10 times 10 equals 1,000. So we're moving from milliliters, smaller to larger. When you move from smaller to larger, from left to right, the change you divide by the change. Left to right, you divide. Okay? So I'm going to say 35 milliliters divided by 1,000 is equal to 0.035 liters. Okay? 0.035. We are moving from smaller to larger units. The number gets smaller. It was 35, now it's 0.035. Let's do B. In B, we're looking for grams, and we're starting with kilograms. So we're going to start with kilograms, kg, then we're going to go to HEKG, I think it is, and then there's DECG, and then G. I think it's decagram, hectograms, kilograms, and grams. So we're going from kilograms to grams. In A, we went from left to right. We're going now from right, from kilograms to grams. We're going right to left. We're going to go 1, 2, 3 times. That's 10 times 10 times 10 equals 1,000. Okay? And since we're moving from right, bigger numbers, to smaller, to larger units, to smaller units, I should say. From larger units to smaller units, we're going to take that 1,000 and we're going to multiply. When you go from larger units to smaller units, you have to have many more of the smaller units than you had of the larger unit. Okay? So we're going to say 250 kilograms times 1,000 because we're multiplying it. In order to do that, you're going to say 250 0 0 0. You're moving, the decimal point was here, we're moving it 1, 2, 3 times. 250,000. 250,000 grams. Okay, one more. We're going from, it says, how many centimeters is 60 meters? Okay, well, centimeter, we want to know how many, we have 60 meters. Okay, and we want to go to centimeters. The centimeters are smaller. I'm just going to write it out. I'm going to say meters, and then decimeters, and then centimeters. We're going to go 1, 2 to the left. That's 10 times 10. That equals 100. 10 times 10 is 100 because we're going and we're going 2 units over. In this case, to the left. And what did I say? When you go from larger units to smaller units, you have to do what? You have to multiply, because the smaller, you're going to need many more of the smaller units to equal what the larger units was. So we're going to multiply by 100, just like we did in B. We took 250 kilograms and we went to grams, so we multiplied by 1,000. Here we're taking 60. I'm going to cross that off. 60 meters, and we're going to multiply it times 100. And that's going to be equal to 6,000 meters, or excuse me, or 6,000 centimeters. Okay? 6,000. 6,000 centimeter. There's 100 difference between centimeters and meters. So if we went from this point to over 2, you see you're back to the 60. We went to the right by multiplying up. If we divided back, we'd be back at the 60. Okay? Example 4. It's a real world problem. It's a geography problem. In the ancient Incan city of Machu Picchu is located in Peru. The altitude is about 2,300 meters above sea level. And it wants to know, what is Machu Picchu's altitude in kilometers? So they give it to us in meters, and they want kilometers, or km. Okay, so I'm going to write down 2,300 meters. So we know we have that much, and we know we're going from meters to kilometers because they want to know it in kilometers. And from meters to kilometers is meters, right? And then there's DE, I think it's KM, and then HEKM maybe. I should look that up and find it out. And then finally it's KM. Meters, decameters, hectometers, and kilometers. So we're going from meters 1, 2, 3 places. So it's 10 times 10 times 10. And that equals, I'm going to put the dots here, dot, dot. That equals 1,000. Okay, so now we know that our multiplier or divisor is 1,000. So we have meters, 2,300 meters, and we're going to kilometers. So 2,300 meters is equal to how many km? Km is much bigger, 1,000 times bigger than meters. So if you've got 2,300 meters, to list that in kilometers, the number is going to be very small. It has to be a small number because the kms is way bigger, because we're trying to get the equal value here. So we're going to take and we're going to divide. When you go from a smaller number to from a smaller unit to a larger unit, you divide by the difference in the factor, the multiplication or division factor. 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. So in our case, we're going to take 2,300 and we're going to divide, because we want it to be smaller, divide by 1,000, and that's going to be equal to, move the decimal point 1, 2, 3 right there. It's going to be equal to 2.3 km. Okay, 2.3 km. Okay, example 4. Check your understanding. The record for the highest a kite has flown is 3.8 kilometers. Find its height in meters. And the other one says a recipe requires a quarter liter, 0.25 liters of milk. A measuring cup only measures in millimeters. How many millimeters is 0.25 liters? Those are your questions. Go off and do them. When you come back, we'll try to work them out ourselves here. Okay, I'm assuming you're back. So let's go for the first one. The highest the kite has ever flown according to this, is 3.8 km. Okay, and they want to find the height of the kite in meters. So they want to know what is it equal to, and I'm going to put m over here, meters. Okay, in meters. Well, in order to get this correct, I'm going to start with where we are. We're starting with km, so km. And then the one below that is hm. I looked it up. I've been struggling with that. I said, I better look it up. I looked it up. It's hm. And then below that is DAM for decameters. And then below that is meters. When I say below, I mean to the left. So meters, decameters, hectometers, kilometers. So we're going to go from kilometers to meters. So we're going to go, I'm going to do it on top this time. 1, 2, 3 places. Each of those is times 10. And that equals 1,000. Okay? And so now we know that when we go from a larger unit to a smaller unit, the smaller unit comparably is going to be many more of the smaller unit compared to the quantity of the larger unit. So if you had one meter, a millimeter would be 1,000. See, it's much larger by that factor. So when we go from right to left, we multiply. So 3.8 times 1,000 is equal to 3,800 meters. So I'm going to write 3,800 right there. There's our answer, 3,800. Let's do the next one. You have a recipe that requires 0.25 liters of milk. Your measuring cup only measures in marks of milliliters. How many milliliters of milk do you need? Well, we can measure milliliters, so we're going to have to convert from liters to something in milliliters. So this time, I'm going to write them up here on the top. I'm going to write milliliters, ml, cl, centiliters, dl, deciliters, l, and then finally liters. We are going from larger to smaller. From the liters, we're at the liters, we're going to the milliliters. We're going down from right to left. So we're going to go 1 place, 2 places, 3 places. Each one of those is times 10, is 10 times, and that equals 1,000. So what we're going to do is, in order to get from, when we said, if you look at even the one on the top, we had larger units going to smaller units. That's for problem A. We have larger units going to smaller units. When we do that, we end up multiplying. So when you go from right to left, you multiply. If you went from left to right, you divide. We're going from right to left, we multiply. So 0.25 liters times 1,000 is equal to 1, 2, 3 places, decimal places. So it's 1, 2, 5, 0, and then the decimal point goes there, okay? And it's milliliters. So the answer is 250 milliliters. Okay, here's our answer, 250 millimeters. And this one, 3,800 meters. Okay.